Let us catch up with Martin Ziegler, the chief sports reporter for the Times and the author, the man who broke this story. Martin, welcome back to the show.
Hi, John.
Martin, what do you think? Can we now read the last rites over this plan to sell off the World Cup?
Oh yeah, I think it's sort of, it's a dead parrot to use the Monty Python sketch, despite the fact how if Gianni Infantino might say it's still alive, no, it's deceased. It's just when they officially pull it, I think.
And meanwhile, Martin, the depth of Infantino's planning to transform the World Cup into a commercial product is becoming even clearer.
Yeah, I mean, there have been some incredible statements today, two significant ones. One, his former senior advisor in the US, Carlos Cordero, who a former investment banker himself, so the sort of person who might be very keen on this sort of project. He resigned and basically said, knowing what he does about the financial world, this is totally wrong for FIFA and football and the World Cup. And then very recently, the chief operating officer of FIFA, Kevin Lamore, is a Frenchman. He's absolutely laid into Infantino around this. This was the project of just one person, and he said the fact that nobody was informed about this, was all done in secret, was a lie by omission. And it's a serious lack of respect. And then he says, this may cost me my job, but at least I will sleep well tonight.
Right. And of course, there was some sort of whispering, wasn't there, during the World Cup about the idea of expanding the last stage of the tournament to 64 national teams. But now we can say all of that was going on, and the planning and the drafting of all of that planning was going on while Infantino had it in mind to offer that as a sweet package to people to invest in the business.
Well, it does look like that, and because we've seen now a briefing note sent out to research companies saying FIFA want to do a analysis of expanding the tournament to 64 teams and to see whether that would bring in more revenue effectively. Which yes, I think surprise, it probably would. But and they want the results of that analysis before September the 19th, when FIFA was planning to hold this vote on selling off the World Cup, a stake anyway, to private investors.
Right, and now we have not just UEFA, but we have a CONCACAF, the sort of North America, Caribbean bloc, as well as the Asian football federations. The numbers are just not there, are they? The numbers are there to sink the thing. Are we at that point?
Yeah, totally. I think, that's... he won't even go for a vote because it will be humiliating. What we'll see now, I imagine at some point we'll see Infantino desperately trying to cling on to his position, saying, I've listened to what everyone's saying, I got it wrong, sorry, let's go back to being the good of the game, or whatever phrase he's going to use, and then he's going to try and probably see this out. But I think people are scenting blood now, so I think he's got a fight on his hands.
Yeah, I mean, you would think so. You get a little bit of the sense of that from my conversation with the vice president of UEFA. Give me your broader thoughts, Martin, on where this leaves football, where this leaves world football, the governance of football. Can good and anything useful come from all of this?
I think it must do, because I think Gianni Infantino was elected as a kind of reform character to change FIFA, and there have been some changes. The old things that happened under Sepp Blatter don't happen anymore, but instead it was replaced by this basically lust for money for FIFA and power, and trying to take the World Cup and other tournaments to places it had never been before. And I just think it's so for many people it's just got worse and worse and worse. Probably hit the sort of nadir at the World Cup.
And I guess,
yeah.
I mean, there will be a feeling, won't there, among fans of the game that, I don't know, in some ways, a blow has been struck for them. Maybe even without sounding too, I don't know, starry-eyed and idealistic, on the side of the spirit of the game. Although that tension between fans and big business and those sort of considerations, often rival considerations, did not start here, and it's not going to end here.
No, it's not. I mean, I do think that yes, some of the excesses we've seen hopefully will now can be reversed, and I think there will be a strong push for that. I think the appetite for like squeezing the greatest amounts of money out of fans for tickets. I can't see that happening anymore. We've seen UEFA for Euro 2028 in the UK. They're keeping them very low. I just think whoever comes forward to replace Infantino, I'm sure will stress that it's going to be about taking football back to the fans and back to the players.
Martin, so good to talk to you over these past couple of days.
Thanks.
Martin Ziegler there, the chief sports reporter for The Times.
Let's now turn our attention to this football row. And Andy Burnham has joined in on the criticism of Gianni Infantino, saying that he's the wrong person to lead the organisation. It's been a very turbulent 48 hours for the president of FIFA after he announced this proposal to sell stakes in the World Cup to private investors. Today, his senior advisor quit in protest, and UEFA has been joined by Asia and by North and Central America in announcing that its members will boycott the World Cup and other FIFA competitions. As part of Infantino's proposal, 20% of stakes would be offered to external investors, including someone called Joshua Kushner, who is the brother of Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, reportedly in line to be the lead investor. Well, let's now speak with Mark Palios, who is former chief executive of the FA and current Tranmere chairman of Tranmere Rovers. Mark, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
So look, what do you think is going to happen now? Do you think he will back down in the face of this protest?
Well, I think the first thing is that if the three federations stick together, then they'll get more than 106 votes, and as a consequence, it won't go through. So he's facing that as a realistic prospect now. I think what he did overnight was probably double down on irritating and antagonising and actually reinforcing the arguments of UEFA in particular that the process was wrong. I think it was fairly naive to come back and suggest and blame the media, blame you guys, blame Martin Ziegler from the Times, I guess, who broke the story, but he's blaming the media for thwarting what he said was a planned consultation. Now, there's no way you were going to have a planned consultation, having worked up a proposal that was pretty much hard-baked by the time it came to light. And then he goes and doubles down on that by saying, well, you've got 53 days to do it, and if you don't, you're going to lose out. Clear bullying to some extent in terms of not really governing in the proper sense. But coming back and saying, OK, it was the media's fault and he was going to consult, it doesn't fool anybody particularly. And I think he was also saying he's going to go ahead with it. Well, I don't think he can go ahead with it. But I think now what comes into question is his own personal position, which, of course, it's voted on in April of next year, I believe.
And look, is his position untenable? And if people wanted to get rid of him before his time is up, is that possible? Is there a mechanism for doing that?
Well, yes, his position, to my mind, should be untenable. But you have to understand the configuration of the voting in FIFA, and that is that you need 106 votes out of 211, and normally Sepp Blatter used to do the maths and work it out. He's obviously done the maths. I think what surprised him is the fact that he's now got three strong federations which will, if they all vote against the proposal, if they have another candidate that stands, because there's nobody currently that's standing against the president, then what will happen is that if nobody else stands, well, he's going to get in. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think there will be another candidate. And I would say that yesterday I thought he could have survived if he'd been a bit clever about the way he dealt with the approach of UEFA. But I actually think overnight and what he said and what's happened since, I think he probably won't survive.
And are there any runners or riders you could see coming forward to potentially stand against him?
I mean, the candidate that most people seem to indicate would be, I wouldn't call him a unification candidate, is the chairman of PSG. He's Asian. That would help. What people need to understand is there's always been a certainly when I was there was a lot of animosity against the dominance that the European federations had, and that to some extent was played upon by Sepp Blatter, who at the time was the beneficiary of a lot of cash coming into the game because of media changes and television rights, etc. And he also had, they have a constitution whereby every federation has one vote. So, the smallest federation has one vote, just as England has one vote. So he was able to use that and be seen as a person who was passing funds, greater funds to these smaller federations, and also, giving them a say because they always backed him, and there were more of them than there were of the big nations. So I think, getting the Asian Confederation on board with CONCACAF and UEFA sounded the death knell to me for Infantino.
And what do you think? I mean, when you just look at the sort of relationship with Infantino and Donald Trump, you've had the FIFA Peace Prize given to Donald Trump. Then there was the situation of Trump getting that players' ban overturned. Now this connection with the Trump family. What is this connection that's going on between Infantino and Donald Trump, do you think?
Well, I don't know personally, but I can only speculate. What I can say is I think from my contacts in the football world, we were quite appalled at the sycophancy when he was they created and then awarded the Peace Prize to Trump. What was a ridiculous ceremony, I felt, when they were doing the draw for the World Cup finals. That was massively exacerbated, and probably much more so on a pure sporting ethics platform when the red card was challenged at the request of the President of the United States. I mean, most sports people would look at that and say that request should not have been made, and it should not have been entertained. Well, it was more than entertained. At the end of the day, they didn't overturn the red card. What they did was they just cancelled or delayed or suspended the punishment. Now, I would ask, and I'm sure everybody else asks, what happens about all the other red cards? Why was that the only red card that was not challenged? Well, yes, it was challenged. But they used the technicality in FIFA statutes and rules that allowed them to suspend the punishment. But it's a mockery of the whole thing.
Yeah, it is a mockery of the whole thing. Well, look, Mark, really good to catch up with you. Thank you very much for your time. That's Mark Palios, former Chief Executive of the FA and current Chairman of Tranmere Rovers.